Illicit chat about depopulation, deep sea exploration, submersible to the depths of the ocean, AI robotic, ritual satanic. No matter what you do, you can't destroy the planet. They want sink like the Titanic. Glorify his name, me brethren. Glorify his name, me brethren. Let we come together and blow fire upon it. Let we come together and blow fire upon it. No they worry about your house, your pretty car or your bling. No they worry about your house, your pretty car or your bling. To the entire metaverse lives only one. To the entire metaverse lives only one thing. Glorify his name, me brethren. Glorify his name, me brethren. Make we come together and blow fire upon it. Make we come together and blow fire upon it. Blessed is the man who walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the ways of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Shishwin. Glorify his name, me brethren. Glorify his name, me brethren. Let we come together and blow fire upon it. Let we come together and blow fire upon it. No they worry about your house, your pretty car or your bling. No they worry about your house, your pretty car or your bling. To the entire metaverse lives only one. To the entire metaverse lives only one. Me hold a meds and say everything clear. They say the end of the earth is near. World War III, nuclear. Keep an eye upon the eagle and the bear. Oligarchs and billionaires. Space is the next frontier. They want breed rarefied here. As a alone sitting in the high chair. Glorify his name, me brethren. Glorify his name, me brethren. Make we come together and blow fire upon it. Make we come together and blow fire upon it. No they worry about your house, your pretty car or your bling. No they worry about your house, your pretty car or your bling. To the entire metaverse lives only one. To the entire metaverse lives only one. Global warming have the place the bake. Tsunami and earthquake. Then they leave land, they try to escape. Ye of little faith. We don't know we're real or we're fake. You have to watch the food you they put on your plate. In the lab manufacturing steak. Could I never flow to the general gate. Glorify his name, me brethren. Glorify his name, me brethren. Make we come together and blow fire upon it. Make we come together and blow fire upon it. No they worry about your house, your pretty car or your bling. No they worry about your house, your pretty car or your bling. To the entire metaverse lives only one. To the entire metaverse lives only one. Chemtrails, the rain down pollution. Illicit chat about depopulation, deep sea exploration, submersible to the depths of the ocean, AI robotic, ritual satanic. No matter what you do, you can't destroy the planet. They want sink like the Titanic. Glorify his name, me brethren. Glorify his name.
I love you, brother.
Let we come together and blow fire upon it. Let we come together and blow fire upon it. No they worry about your house, your pretty car or your bling. No they worry about your house, your pretty car or your bling. To the entire metaverse lives only one. To the entire metaverse lives only one thing. Glorify his name, me brethren. Glorify his name, me brethren. Make we come together and blow fire upon it. Make we come together and blow fire upon it.
All right.
Blessed is the man who walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the ways of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Shishwin, glorify his name, me brethren. Glorify his name, me brethren. If we come together and blow fire upon the hill. If we come together and blow fire upon the hill. No they worry about your house, your pretty car, or your bling. No they worry about your house, your pretty car, or your bling. To the entire metaverse live.
Good evening. Greetings in the name of all things good and gracious. I am G. Michael Reid, and this is your Read Me In, our weekly podcast. We do this every Thursday evening where we sit around and take a look at the matters trending, the issues that are making the headlines. We are joined weekly, of course, by our co-hosts, Mr. Joe Coey and Mr. Jeremy Spooner and Greg Morrison. We know that Joe has been out a couple of weeks. He has informed me that he's back in town and should be on tonight once again. We, as per normal, we don't have any scapegoats, no sacred cows, no agendas, political, religious, personal, otherwise. We look at things from an objective point of view and ask you to join in. Like the broadcast. If you have some comments, just type it in, and we'll make sure that it's on the screen, and we'll read it as it becomes pertinent. We're looking at a couple of issues. Of course, the whole news again is Budna, and aren't you also tired of this foolishness? Because it's, I mean, how often are you gonna? How long are we gonna hang this on a mantelpiece? So what are we gonna do? Bemoan this forever? This man was no ordinary citizen, and I really believe that. I don't think he was a regular Joe. It's not like that a person that a law-abiding citizen was picked up off of the street and just handed over to Guatemala. That is not what happened. Mr. Budna was doing a couple of life sentences, in fact, for kidnapping, a very serious crime, when he escaped and returned to Belize. We knew he was escaped. We knew he was wanted over there. We did nothing. We allowed him to assume the role of a journalist, and just because he was pushing the mic into people's faces does not mean that he was any credible journalist at all. He was still a fugitive from the law. On the international scene, of course, the situation is growing tense in the Caribbean, in Venezuela. Trump apparently has seized a oil tanker, and many believe that this is all about oil. This is about trying to seize the world's largest reserve out there, and America is the big bad wolf. Might makes right, and I think it might, in fact, be also a distraction from the situation in the Middle East, because they're trying to get that matter back to the status quo, back to the apartheid system, and they say, oh, well, at least we stop all the killing. We're not going to kill as many people. But that land grab continues, and that is something we'll have to keep our eyes on and make sure it doesn't just go away. We can't make that go away. We have to deal with that. That's a very serious crime against humanity that's occurring there. We don't want to watch the same thing happen in Venezuela. Hopefully, they're gonna pull that in check before it gets too far out of hand. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the representative of the entire Caucasian nation, my good friend Jeremy Spooner. Greetings,
Yes, good
Rastafari.
evening, Chairman, and good evening, everybody. Let me just turn off my TV. I'm
That was
watching
that.
my favorite TV station, Fox News, just catching up on things, seeing
You
what my
can't
Malaysian
catch up on
Trump will
things on
do.
facts. You
Trump,
don't
boy,
catch
Trump,
up
no, they
on
mess
things.
around a town, man. He thief the man tanka.
The whole aisle tanker. Incredible. Incredible. You don't really watch Fox
What's
News
going
though,
on?
do you?
Yeah, man.
Huh?
I watch all of them. Watch all of them.
Yeah,
I
but
watch all the news media to get a balance, no?
which is your favorite news media? Who do you trust more? Which one do you trust the most?
I liked Al Jazeera. I liked Al Jazeera. I can't talk right now. Can't talk right now, Miguel. I like Al
America.
Jazeera.
Uh,
Uh, I like Fox.
okay,
I don't watch CNN too much, but I watch it here.
look who the cat dragged in.
I Google. I watch. Huh?
I said,
Good
look who the
evening,
cat
Mayor.
dragged in.
My name is.
Joe, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Huh?
All right. How things? You're abandoned with it for a really while, and by the mission, man. And I asked where Joe there.
Why it was force of circumstances.
Yeah.
But as usual, it's always nice to be back with nice people. So I'm here again.
Having a conversation as usual. When we talk about the media and Jeremy, we talk about
I wore this blue color for the two PUCs on the show.
All right, yeah, the true word early.
I wear this for you, G Mike, and also Troy.
Now you wear that for hide and white hair in your head. Now we wear that for nobody you don't fool nobody. And as
I wish I had white hair. I got no hair.
As an ACB, I know it's certainly not for the PUP because then a UDP. All of them get taken care of well. So, but that's all right.
The majority were sympathizers, but you had some independents in there, and you had Ronald
really
Perdomo. We all knew was a UDP, but he was very rational. He was a good man. Good man.
Which one of the Perdomos?
Rommel.
Okay, yeah.
He's not with us anymore, sadly.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Romelo was a nice guy. I mean, I found him to be a decent fella, no?
Yeah.
All right.
A lot of people.
Hi, Julia. Good evening. Joe, we're going to talk about the media, and Jeremy talk about his favorite TV stations. You watch the international news. Which one of the media houses you find with any level of credibility?
I sense the influence the political parties have had on them. For example, I sense where CNN likely to go, where MSNB likely to go, where Fox likely to go. So I think as us looking on, we will have to discern from the facts we have and to make a determination about their opinion. Now, what I find to be the more independent type ones is the C-SPAN, the Al Jazeera. I don't think they are so much influenced by the partisan politics. So they tend to be more balanced for the Al Jazeera and C-SPAN and some others, but those one mainly.
Well,
Politico is another one. I did some research. They said Politico and Reuters are two good sources of information also.
How about Democracy Now?
Hello?
Do you watch that? Democracy Now is another
They're
station.
left. Nah, I see them on Facebook. I keep getting sent posts from them. Yeah.
They're too far left for you.
Yeah, it's mostly left. Yeah, they're very far left. Yeah, they're like the UDP. They got nothing positive to say about the present government.
And that's interesting because bringing it back to home, I believe we're faced with almost the same situation with our media in Belize, where we have Channel 7 on one side and 5 though trying a little harder to be independent, but I don't think that they balance it out well enough because many times they seem to be watching Channel 7 to see what they news stories they're going to cover. So I think 7 is definitely more diligent in trying to get the news. But boy, they're really anti-PUP, anti-government, especially right now, no?
I appreciate Jules, boy. He's I appreciate him very much. I hope nobody hurts him. I hope nobody hurts him. We
Where,
need we
where
need
are
opposing voices.
where are the situation with that? Because I saw the post, and I don't know that I would call it a dead threat, or maybe a dead wish.
Oh, that
But
wish, yeah.
yeah, Joey, are you familiar with the post?
Yeah, I have been keeping up with Jules Vasquez. I think he's a fairly good reporter. I do look at the opposition. I listen to them at times, just like how I listen to Channel 5 and 7. The reality of the media is that it was intended traditionally to underpin a robust democracy because it is to inform people. That was the main objective of the media. Though we have seen over the years, and I think this has been brought out by those who have been following the media, there is a shift towards partisan politics bias. But as we are one as listeners, once we get the facts, because there cannot be two facts, there's only one. We must know what are the facts all of these media houses are saying. Once we have the facts, then we can listen to their opinions and we can differ. So for me, I would listen to the opposition. I would listen to the party in government, the big media houses. I think Jews come out of a UDP background, evidently. But despite that, I would say that he's one of those reporters who seems to go and look for the facts. Then you could differ with him who wants to dramatize the facts, given his partisan bias. But the truth about it is that I don't want to go back to every case, but I noticed some of the things that are being highlighted now, particularly in the case of the minister that had resigned. I think that the prime minister, unfortunately, I felt that he mishandled that situation, where it is evident that the man did not fell off a horse to cause the resignation. I felt it had been better for him to stay away. But again, if he had not flagged that, we wouldn't have heard much about it. Yes, I know we have overworked the Budna case, but when I listened to what happened the other morning on Channel 5, and I think the Prime Minister, again, I'm still I'm a PUP in the principles, not in the principle. But if I were him, I wouldn't have gone at length to characterize Budna and his egregious mistakes and wrongs that he did. I wouldn't have done that. And that is what went wrong for him in a media house. Because it was brought to his notice that the issue was not about his character. The issue that they are trying to highlight to you, that's what they were telling him, is whether there was due process. So here we are now getting some facts, and then we get opinions. Then we get some information which have not been proven to be facts, but are speculation. We need to know the difference between facts and speculation. Some people take speculation and they treat it as facts, build an opinion, and give news to make it appear as if though it is so. And that is where the party politics tends to undermine what I believe is the primary importance of the press to inform. I'm not saying no, there have to be opinions, but once you give your facts and you give the evidence, and you may have but at least the media houses should try to make sure that what they are reporting are facts and then have different opinions. And I could live with that.
I hear you talk about facts and but where do we get? I think
No?
give background noise. Samurai, whoever is on the Samurai, check mute that mic for me for a second. I'm gonna see if that will help.
Comment 1E, the toilet is clogged.
Are you guys saying something then?
Yeah, 1E, yes.
Okay. I think
All right.
that will have to take care of tomorrow.
Can I do it today?
No.
Clinton, that's coming over on the air, Clinton.
Wait, 3801 what?
Clinton, mute that mic for me, please.
05,
Oh,
Right?
oh, oh, five, one E. One E.
Yeah, I'm getting a feedback here. I'm hearing a noise in the
Now that
background.
that he up on the phone over there,
Yeah,
but
okay.
again, mic open.
Come over.
No, I'm at
Clinton,
church right now. I'm at church.
you're there at church.
Your church, we can be able to do it.
Tomorrow.
Okay?
Tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay then. All
Okay
right.
then. All right.
Clinton, you need to mute the mic. Hello, can you hear me, Clinton? All right. Anyway, you look like you're out for the phone now. Yeah.
What was quite
They,
revealing, G Mike, was Mr. Correa, was that now there was a report, I think last night, Koyo or Cock, from the police, the Orange Walk man in charge, that came out when he saw the disturbance outside. He's saying now that they asked him to, his senior asked him to rewrite and change his statement from the first one he submitted. Did you see that in the news?
I saw that, but at this point, coming out like that, it leaves some things to be desired. I don't know that I could just take for him word at that at this stage of that matter, for him to come out and say that, you know, seem too credible to me at all. Because he might know. How do we know which ones are that lie and which are true? I mean, if you find it, if you initially then, even because you know when we talked about this the other night about the following an order that's wrong, that you know, just even if they give an order and that order is not proper, then you don't have to follow that order. And some new a Nuremberg trial that proved that just you can't just say, well, and tell me do that, so I do it, so that exonerates you. And this is my problem with that, because if he then he's they can charge him for perjury, because if he gave a statement and it's a wrong statement, then regardless of who tell you to get a statement, and for you now to kind of say, oh, that statement wasn't correct, how we know they're not paying you now to say that? So I don't pull that much water with that at all. Um, the whole but nothing, I
Well,
think,
obviously,
was
he's probably succumbed.
is what? Obviously, is what?
I was going to say he's probably succumbed to pressure from his superiors or
Yeah.
whoever,
Well,
and
let,
or he doesn't want to lose his job. You know,
well, let me
he
say
knows
something.
what went on. He knows who those guys are.
Let me say something here. There is a way you should have gone about doing what should have been done, and that is in accordance with the law. There's procedures that are laid down
Hey,
in the laws. There are procedures that are laid down in the
okay,
public
see,
service regulations.
what
Those are
time you leave now? What?
and it's clearly laid out that where you have reason to believe an offense may
So
have
what
been
you saying?
committed, the law lays out clearly how you are to pursue it. It tells you that you do that investigation. The findings can go to the
So
DPP to
we
make.
already sent you. So you send me $50?
Now, if we had
What?
followed that,
Oh,
all this
oh,
would
hold it.
that thing could have come to an end long ago.
All right, well,
But when the law is not being followed, then it
okay.
begins to bring suspicion to people who knows the law.
Yeah, correct. You can't do that yet. And then guess what? Okay, when you get there, I still need to call the
Yeah,
Uber.
that is this is distracted. Let me see.
How I thought you doing chilling. You might call me. Oh, my mic is on.
There you go. All right, good. Sorry about that, Joe.
Yeah, my point is that if we expect first of all the legislators to make the laws, we
Mhm.
expect the executive to implement those laws, and we expect the judiciary to make a determination where we believe the laws may have been violated. And that's the three arms of government. I first would go to the public sector, since they are the one who has, to some great extent, creating a lot of the differences in opinions, the differences in positions we are taking on public matters. Because the truth about it, the police, in the first instance, should never have allowed, well, not allowed, should never have made it necessary for the Prime Minister to instruct an investigation to be carried out in a department. That must come from the minister in charge of that department. If you have some issues in the health, in the Ministry of Health, and the departments that comes under that ministry, under the Constitution, it was the minister assigned responsibility. That's what the Constitution refers it to. It has responsibility for all the subject matters under that portfolio. So what is happening to us today? And today I was in a 6 hours conference. We had 6 hours at the up there at the new places and by 4 by the bridge. 5 hours. And what we were discussing, the issue of reform, administration reform for taxes, policy reforms. And it's surprising among us, the chartered accountants, who are the experts in taxation. We are the ones who are the experts in taxation. That sometimes even among us we are finding differences. Well, I can understand differences in terms of making determination and matters that may even be interpretation of the law. But if we follow, the legislator follow what he had to do, the executive follow what he had to do. I'm not saying that everything will be perfect, evidently not. But much of the problems I am seeing now for my 20 years in the public sector, well, 20 plus 20, 10, 30, we never had some of these issues. We didn't. Because we were bound to follow the law.
But you're dealing with that, no, Joe. But I hear you say that. But if you guys were following the law all along, we'd have no issues. And for all along, governments, consecutive governments have broken the law blatantly. So I think for you to say that during that time you guys were following the law, I don't I can't agree with that.
Well, you may not agree with it, but the facts are there. And let me remind you that we had self-government in 1964.
Right.
No. When we got self-government, the British retained management and control over foreign affairs, defense, and the public sector. The public sector remained, no doubt, highly disciplined, neutral, meritocracy. He had all the necessary ingredients to have a public sector responsible to the citizens of the country, to ensure that whatever the government platform is, based on the people voting them into office, that those things will be carried out. Now look at all the reports written on Belize. The most recent by that professor, I think, from Manchester, which was done on Belize. And it was well talked about. He said that the first 20 years of independence, Belize was making tremendous progress. And in the last 20 years is when we begin to have retrograde step. And what he cited, he take the same macroeconomic data from Belize and use it to give way why we are going back way. And what it showed. It showed that in the per capita income, Belize ranked at the lowest. We were among the lowest, the bottom three within the region. So what I am getting at is that if we can look at the facts, the fact is that when the budget speech was given, the last one, the Prime Minister introduced the budget speech with the good side after with the IMF, the World Bank put out, which was again our information. We made 8% growth. We had low unemployment. We were reducing poverty. So if we were doing these things based on the macroeconomic data, how come when the expert now come in to analyze these same figures? And what is happening? If you look at the figures, indeed, the GDP was growing, but there was not equitable distribution at the GDP. Too high a percentage of the growth was going to too few. So that created an inequality. And that was evident. But how much sometimes, and I'm coming back to the media, we have to be a little bit, not too hard on the media, because we're a small country. These media houses, most of them, when we talk of, let's say, Channel 7, who do we think of as Channel 7? Jules, one man. He doesn't have a reporter for, let's say, politics, for economics, for law. They don't. One person goes out, then you go to one of the largest media houses, I would say Love FM. How many reporters you have there? When you listen to their shows, how many reporters you have? Maybe one or two. So when you go to Channel 5, how many reporters there?
Well, they certainly not do much investigative reporting, I'll tell you that.
And
And
that is what,
even,
sorry.
I hear one of the blow up Jews, but I find that Jews, they are many times he pass off his opinion as facts. And you talk about facts, but whose facts? And how do we determine what's really facts and what is in fact just something they're feeding us through the media? Because you know that Fourth Estate are a powerful tool, and they've used it down through the ages to steer the opinion of people, throwing things out there. And they say if you throw something up against the wall, enough mud against the wall, somebody it will stick. And so a lot of times we find that that's something like the Buddha thing right now, because he keeps throwing that against the wall, and the people who I imagine they will start to pay attention to it and start to be concerned along the lines that he wants them to be, which is to suggest that, oh, the government did such a terrible thing. But what are the facts? Because what do we really know transpired? We see one blurry video which you keep on the show, which not really show nobody clearly. Um, and then now we get this story from this police officer who came out and saw what was happening, and he was called off. He was the man who, from the very start, was vital to this whole investigation. He could have tell you who they out there to do what and what they're going to do, but it seems like they didn't press that enough. They were so intent. People seem to believe that the prime minister gave that order for Budna to be removed from Belize, and that the way they go after. And they even know they say, well, we're saying they have to resign because the wrong that was done. Nothing else. What are the facts in that? Who did it?
All right, allow me to answer that one. Let's begin with facts. A person was murdered. John Brown was murdered. That's a fact. We cannot dispute that he was murdered. The motive for his murder is not yet known. So that is not a fact yet. Now, I saw something just recently, and I don't want to have to call his name, but if you want to call, you must have read it on Facebook. They claim that a minister, a senator who was a minister in the prime minister's office, under the Anti-Corruption Act, all politicians and certain senior public officers have to file returns annually to show their income that they earn and to show their assets and liabilities. Every year we have to do that.
They don't have to, because they don't do it really.
No, they have to do it by law.
But by law, but do they do it, Joe?
No, all right, let's come back to that now. If they are not doing it, then that's a violation of the law.
But then what do we do? What do the average Belizean do?
Well, what the average Belizean can do, we can take action against them, but it seems that we are not into that mode yet. But let's come back. The report in the Facebook is saying that this person report was leaked out. So if the report was leaked out, it meant that he did the report. But if he filed a report, it doesn't have to be leaked out, because by law you have to publish it. So I will show you now how the media can take something that, because they are opposed to it, and they can take it and make it look like it is something true that they are saying.
Correct.
What was perhaps true? If the report was leaked out, if it was leaked out, then I am saying something is wrong, because the report doesn't have to be leaked out. The report by law is to publish. Secondly, he went on, and because of the amount that was stated in the side that we have to report your assets and liabilities, it was showing a net worth of an amount they believe this person could not have accumulated over the period. Now, what they didn't do, if you went into office, if you were in the government in 2020, and here you resign in your second term of government, less than a year after the first year of the second term, it means you were there for almost 6 years. What you wanted to see was what was the first return filed, and what is the return that was filed or will filed now. Then you can say, listen, if when I filed the first time, and I just use a figure now to get over the idea, My net worth was $1 million. 5 years after I filed, and my net worth is 1.5 million. What you do then? You take that. If you are opposed to the party in government, you will take it and say, "But how this man get all of this money in a short time?" Nobody stopped to ask, did he file only the return, or did he have to file for taxes? So he had to file. But we don't have the kind of unbiased, professional, dispassionate, objective analysis of issues because we are not properly. None of these media houses, the chairman said we big up Jews. My intention is not to big up Jews, is to say that when I put them all together, when it comes to articulating, when it comes to eloquence, when it comes to, I think, reporting, I would say he's above the rest.
He's the best. He's the best at the lot. But when we look at the lot, there leaves a lot to be desired. Let me put it like that.
Exactly.
We don't have many good reporters in Belize. In fact, when we got to the point when Budna was considered a good reporter, you know the bar is low. Because I didn't find him a good reporter at all. I found him pushing Mikey in a people's face. And my question to them, and they're saying to those who say, "Oh, when they start to uncover things in a government, what? Give me an example of one thing that Budna uncovered in government that we didn't know or that we should have known. Just one matter."
But Mr. Chairman, this is an example right now that those were opinions. But those opinions to me are not valid opinions because opinions is not simple opinion because you want to give an opinion. Opinion must be grounded in some informed information.
Exactly. Just kind of sensational.
Right. So what you do? You want to favor, in other words, you don't predetermine who you want to favor. So I want to, and let's go to partisan politics box. I want to favor the UDP. So I will take something that the PUP did. I will take a grain of truth. I will dramatize it, and I will do off all the good. And that is what we call statisticating at times. And that is what we do in the media. So when the media should have been there to inform based on facts and then give opinions, we do not seem to be having much of that again today. They have gone to partisan.
What role does the advertisement play? Because we look at Channel 7 and they'll come on at 7 and then or 6. And
No,
then they
come
run
on
like
at 6.
and 20 minutes of commercial, and then they bring on a story, and then 20 minutes of commercial, like all at Christmas and especially around election time. So are they then, do they have to pay the piper? Are they beholden to those people? Because a lot of the government, a lot of the commercials are government sponsored also. For them to hang on to those and survive, do they then have to toe that party line?
I think that's a very relevant question for the media in Belize and universally. But let's take Belize. What do you believe is the main source of income for any media house? To me, I believe it's advertisement.
Yeah.
It's advertisement. Now, when it comes to the hard copies of selling a newspaper, I was one time sponsoring a newspaper. And the sale of the paper itself doesn't bring you the bulk of the income. But because your paper has received national coverage, high coverage, this person who is looking to get the best return in an advertisement, going for that newspaper, we have the national coverage. So now that we moved away from the newspapers, we still have the Amanda hard copy. But now it's more the electronic media we are looking at with these television houses, the media houses. So which is the one you think you would want to go to put up an advertisement? You would want to go to the one that had the highest widespread national coverage.
Exactly. More people will see your ads. Yeah.
Who has the highest coverage in Belize right now? Love FM.
Love FM. Yeah.
You think?
Yeah, it does, because what happened?
They reach the whole country. Yeah.
Yeah, but remember what happened? Why is Love FM? Remember we had Radio Belize. Radio Belize was national. It covered the whole country. We're up into Mountain Pine Ridge. We had towers. When the government decided that they will now move away from just one radio station and they will open it up. Love FM had the first crack of buying out the government equipments. So they had jumped again that when Amanda or the radio station there came in,
Prem.
they had to buy time, they had to buy from Love FM. So
You
today
know,
they remain with the highest coverage.
and Jeremy, you have to weigh in on this because when we look at that, um, Rene Villanueva was the chief broadcasting officer, running Radio Belize. Then he transferred over to he opened Love on his own, and what happened now with BTL and Smart, and we wonder if all of this are not games that they play for just milk the people out of their money, man. Because right now, I always thought that Belize didn't need two telecommunications companies. We were too small. We can reach people because of the advent of technology. You could reach people with open the phone lines and whatnot to make communication possible. But when we do it for the money making aspect of it, I wonder if they're not unfair. The consumer thing that happened there, where they take advantage of people, man. You think everything is okay and up on with that?
Isn't
I will ask
competition good? That doesn't Smart give some great deals that BTL don't give it. I think with the two, what do you call it, with BTL and Smart, I think the consumers benefit from that. What will
You
happen
really think
now?
so? You really think
I would
so? I
think at
mean,
the end of the day, at the end of the day,
that a
at the end of the day.
manufactured competition, there, man. Because if you have the
Can I
government
ask you one
running,
thing? I'm not 200% sure of it, but does Smart have its own towers or do they use BTL towers? Do you know?
I think they and I don't think they use towers so much anymore now. Satellite thing.
Hmm.
So that the tower thing almost obsolete, I think. But they have to put up satellite poles around the country, I believe, no. But I
Well,
think that
Smart has its customers, so I think people must feel that they get a better deal from Smart than they do BTL, and some people go to BTL. And would these services be available if it was a monopoly? You know,
well, I could probably answer that one for you all. We were involved with the Inter American Development Bank. That's the whole Central American and Latin American countries. We were. Now we had a meeting in Guatemala at the it's one of these heritage sites where the earthquake had hit and bring up that hard that they used to make these different things out of. Anyhow, we had about 2 weeks of meeting there. And out of that came for countries. We were to be guided by it. Small countries like Belize, and we are very small, relatively speaking, compared to Guatemala. We have what you call some natural monopolies. For example, let's take electricity, for example. When you disaggregate electricity, you produce it, you transmit it, and then you distribute it. We realized that that was a natural monopoly for distribution and transmission. So we were not to attempt to have competition because it doesn't work. You can't got two companies competing with poles all over the country.
and the water the same thing.
We encountered the water. So we knew that in that we will try to create competition to produce the energy, hoping that we go to renewable energy. So that was supposed to be set like that. When it comes to telecommunication, it was clear that we could have created competition. And that was the reason when we tried to
What
come.
are the difference though, Joe? Not run past that.
All right.
Why if you don't think we need to create competition in electricity, we need to create competition in telecommunication? They're basically almost the same kind of.
No, what happened with them, you need to disaggregate them and understand. The telecom, the energy. Try to imagine you have two companies that compete in energy. how you have all these poles all over the place, that to me just couldn't work. So the only way you can gain competition in electricity is at the production side.
Well, we're going back to what Jeremy, the question Jeremy asked about towers and putting up towers all over the place. Also, it works out to be the same thing, Joe.
No, I'm saying to you, let's look at them and I want to try to speed it up for you. The electricity, we could not compete for the production, for the transmission and distribution because they are natural monopolies. That's an economic fact for us. Now, telecommunication, we could have created competition. The reason why we gone and we convinced Ashcroft, even much against his will, to buy back telecommunication detail from Ashcroft was because PROSA was supposed to create competition. That is why they sold it to PROSA, who fell down and they had to go back to Ashcroft because competition could have been done in telecommunications. Now, let's come down to water. Water, again, when you disaggregate water, it was difficult for you to not have a natural monopoly because the country is too small. So wherever there are small economies, you have some natural economies in electricity and in water. Telecommunication, you don't have to. In ports, again, you cannot have much competition in ports because you cannot have too many ports to compete. So there are some public utilities that the economies of scale for the country does not allow for competition. That is why they call it market failure. And when you got market failure because of small economies, the state comes in to adjust the market failure. That's how the state exists in our small economies.
I hear you. I hear you saying that. I'm not convinced of your argument that we needed competition. We couldn't have competition in electricity, water, and ports, but we needed it, or we could allow for it in telecommunications. I really, and in fact, right now, isn't what they're recommending right now is going back to a monopoly?
No, Mr. Chairman, let me try to qualify one point. This was not my opinion, but I support it as a person who did economics. I did economics to a very in-depth level, just as I did finance and whatnot. So when I was in that meeting, I went to represent the leaders at that meeting. This was done with the Inter-American Development Bank with some major top experts in the world that came down to help the IDB and all the Central American and Latin American countries. And I'll give you an example. When we were deciding what we consider to be small countries that could have natural monopolies, you realize that Guatemala at the time was about 11 million, and Belize was just about 300,000. And even Guatemala, into certain of these things, would not have competition. So the expert, the economic expert, and again, any of us who have some insight into the economy of our country, into the financing, will have to agree. Because the competition is what breeds efficiency. That's the key to the market economy. But what happens when there is market failures, which come from natural market failures? The state intervened to adjust market failures. For example, quickly, when we had a market failure was because we couldn't have competition enough in some of the goods we were consuming. So the state intervened and introduced price control. Price control was introduced to address our market failure. That's an economic reality. That's why we have price control. Because we
Can I
don't.
ask you a question?
Sorry.
Well,
No,
just
go
wanted to
ahead.
ask a question. Did they in that meeting, you said that Guatemala with 11 million people, competition is not like in those facilities you're talking about. Is there a threshold when competition is viable? Is there a threshold of population? Because you mentioned Guatemala had 11 million
Yeah,
people,
but
and even they.
yeah, the threshold depends on the particular goods and services they produce. You see, you can get whenever a business break even, it's because of the fixed asset cost goes down. That's when you get your break even, and that's when you begin to make profit. Now, some of the monopolies and what you call natural monopolies. Natural. Some of them are monopolies because the private sector is not to have compete in them. So when you don't have enough competition, you will have a market failure. Remember, we subscribe to our market economy. But because we're a small country, we have a lot of natural market failures. But when you have market failures in smaller companies, that's when the state comes in to address the market failure. So to me, when we brought in supplies, when we brought in control prices, that was to address our market failure. But this came out of the issue with the press, you see, and we just to come back now, I think, to show where we and the facts and whatnot. I would still maintain, gentlemen, that though we are a small country, I think we media houses can do better. They can do. There's a lot of people out here who will be willing to provide the media houses voluntarily with facts. They must know who to go to interviews to get the facts from them, where to get their facts. The media house have to be given some training to look for facts. Then give your opinions. And don't take what the chairman said, and I agree with him. But facts are facts, and I could always remember, I want to quote Obama here. Obama said, we can have our own opinions, but we can't have our own facts. You cannot have your own facts. Facts are facts. You cannot have a fact and I have a fact.
Yeah, but you can state something as a fact when it's in fact not a fact. And in fact, if you come from a media house that people have, and not just a matter of being able to convince enough people, that's all you have to do. And you got the herd running, and everybody jump in and just run along with the herd. Because and Jules is a good drover. He has that herd running how he wants it most of the time. And that makes him a very dangerous person.
I will get you an article to read from the magazine The Nation. And I will let you read the book, The Right of the People. It is written by a very distinguished person in politics and economics, and a philosopher himself. And that book is well written. In fact, it was headlined in The Nation magazine. I just read it in the States. I was up there. What it is saying, that democracy in America has failed because we do not have democracy. And he gave it the three characteristics which we should know of democracy: equality, responsiveness to the need of the society, and majority rule. And the first conk of equality, he said that America does not have equality as intended by democracy. The book is well written. It went back to the past to show you from the period of the Greeks, in period of Athens, which was the genesis for democracy, that they themselves, Socrates and Plato and them, thought that democracy was nonsense. He said it will not work because you will not have so many people sophisticated enough to make it work. So in the great United States, in this book, The Right of the People, is showing where an equality itself, the powerful, that small percentage of the people with political power in America today, is showing 1% of the wealthy people control about 50% of the wealth of America.
And again, democracy has been considered a farce, in a lot of areas, and what they pass off as the democracy. Because I imagine if you look at true democracy, where the majority does rule and the people have a voice, it could work. But at the end of the day, there's so many fools among us, and I say that with no apology, who just follow the leader, follow the trend of thought that's prevailing, and then just go along with that without asking too many questions at all.
Mr. Chairman, let me give you a quick example of Belize and in the States, anywhere. 100 people are registered to vote. 60% came out to vote. That is 60 people came to vote. In that 61 get 31 and the other one get 29. No, the one will get 31. That's only 1/3 of the elected. How can democracy flourish with a majority rule? The majority are not ruling, but the minority rule. And that is one of the things the Right of the People brought out. It is showing you where we are fooling ourselves, because less and less people are voting, because more and more people are being frustrated by the way the politics are being run by the powerful. Those with the money, they buy the political power today.
There's another matter there too, though. If they only give you two to choose from, and both you don't even know that both of these don't really share the same policies and whatnot, You're not really got a choice. You sham. You're going to the vote and you cast your vote, but you select the most of the time that the lesser of two evil, as opposed to the better of two goods.
I am willing to argue for the 2008 elections to show you where democracy was not applied. The PUP must have seen to be discredited because of certain things that had happened.
Right.
But the evidence is overwhelming that when the electorate choose to vote against the incumbent and not take into account what will fill the void, it is dangerous for our country. We voted against the PUP in 2008. Not for, we never voted for the UDP. We voted against the PUP. We did not know what would have filled the void. That is not democracy. What filled the void? We had 13 years that turned out to be a government became politically and administratively dysfunctional. And you know why? The people believe that they should vote out the incumbent and no regard for what they want voting. That is not democracy. That
Well,
is why,
and the ACB people had some fault there, no?
well,
Um,
I would not blame them. I thought that they were doing a good job. It's
oh
unfair.
man, they were influential. They
But
were working.
they
They
were, but
were work. But Joe, we're aren't we faced with a similar
I
thing
need,
now?
sorry, I need to put in this one for speaker, Mr. Chairman. I know who are on the ACB crowd, whatever you call them, and I thought they were genuine, at least most of them, but one among them, especially, I know was not genuine.
Spooner.
I, no, I think the government that came to office with the support of that group betrayed the group.
Who's that? Did you mention the name?
I'm saying that the group that you all may belong to,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, you know, and that group I knew personally, and I thought that was sincere, except for one or two that I know were not. But when the government came to power, they betrayed that group.
Oh, yes, they did. And I've always said that. I
That
always said that.
they
In
did.
fact, that's why I resigned. I took the group to, I challenged the group as to why are they not, why are we not saying anything? Why have we gone quiet?
That's right.
And I was told that I don't know where Jeremy's getting all of this from, but we are a group of integrity. And I said, you know what? I noticed that you guys, since UDP got in, you all are very quiet and don't want to say anything. And that's not why I wanted to be part of ACB. So I resigned from the group.
Well,
I think
not
I
only
think I'm the only one that resigned.
they
The
were
only-
well taken care of. A few of them were given good
Yeah, of
positions
course, quite a few of them. The sad thing about it, no, G Mike, is that to get people to join, you would not because we're such a small country and divided politically, we couldn't get people to join who were
of
like me.
integrity.
I consider myself independent. I vote for UDP. I vote for PUP, and I don't think we could get independent-minded people to join the group. Majority were UDP, which I came to find out because I didn't know some of the characters. It was only once I got inside there and later on that I began to learn where their leaning was. That's why I admire Romel Perdomo. You could say he was UDP, but in the meetings, he was an independent person saying things that he needed to say, and
I
that's
have a
why I admire Romel.
I have a great respect for him.
Um,
I knew he voted against me. And
have,
I knew why he was going to do it. And he told me. And I said, Romel boy, I cannot wrong you. Maito, his brother, voted for me. But no, I want to say this. And I can give you examples of where they become dysfunctional. When I went to see the then Attorney General, who is an advisor to the government, because of a serious wrongdoing, they were bringing a case with no evidence. They knew they never had the evidence. The then Attorney General said to me, in the presence of a person I took with me as a witness, he said, today they will have their say. I was told by the cabinet that I must do it, and I did it. I said, but how can you be doing this as the Attorney General? He called in his the deputy with the file. He asked him, is there evidence to show why they are bringing the charge? You know what the man did? He shook his head. He said, no, there was no evidence. He told me the person who is in that same group that you are in who went to the Prime Minister and convinced the Prime Minister he should bring the case. In the end, to show you how far they had gone, the then Minister of Lands was taken to court twice by the group, and the two times he lost the case. When they went to the Prime Minister to report, he said that he will do something about it, and he did nothing. It is in the third term, after they win the third term, which was the last term he could have served. It was then he came out to the public and said that the Ministry of Lands is a hotbed of corruption, and that then he moved the minister. What I'm bringing into you all, gentlemen, is that we have to begin to understand the past if we want to make a better future, and if we show that the democracy we want, because democracy is failing in this country.
But the question is, the pertinent question is, have we moved anywhere from where we were? Have we progressed any in the direction of better governance, or are we right where we've always been? Let's look at the matter with, again, the UDP, because now I'm looking at them and I'm like, well, they're the opposition, but what kind of opposition? And as a government, what kind of government would they be? And they're now picking at everything that the PUP is doing. Are we doing that badly that we have to now remove them for anything? Because that's the way usually when you hear the cry, well, anything will be better than this. Where are we, Joe? As Jeremy too, and where do you think we are as a country?
Let me come back again to the right of the people. I think the book should be read. He went down and he mentioned the three essential characteristics of democracy. I mentioned them just now. Then he went down to the values that will underpin those characteristics. And one of the values that stood out was participation. He said if the people are not prepared to participate, they say are making a mockery of democracy. So, Mr. Chairman, I would lead back to Mr. Spooner. The question that you asked, think of it. If the people are not prepared to participate, what happens to democracy?
We found it hard to get people to speak. We wanted to invite speakers to give their opinion. We didn't have the we didn't have, it's sort of like a debate, but we would organize every month when the issues came up about what the present government had done or what it was perceived to be doing presently. I'm talking about in those days from 2003 to 2008, because that's how long ACB came into effect. We found it very hard to get people to participate. A lot of them were scared to speak out. I know a lot of people who behind closed doors said all kinds of things about the PUP, but to get them to come, you know what? Ralph Fonseca, when I was a Rotarian, came to give a speech at Rotary. And he got up on the podium and he said, all right. We said, well, I'm here. Here we are, Rotary. And I hear a lot of owners say a lot of things about me behind my back. Here I am. Take me to task now. And nobody said anything. But a lot of people are like that. Behind closed doors, or if they feel comfortable with somebody they're talking to, they will criticize and say all kinds of things about the government of the day.
Lot of it unfounded too, because this is the second part of that, Joe, because you want them to participate, but you also want them to be educated.
Well, we did a lot of research.
In the ways of government.
We did a lot of research. Lois Young is a top lawyer. We had Stephen Duncan. We had Glenn Izagiri. We would debate, and within the group, we would make sure that everything that we could back it up. It wasn't just here we say.
So why would they not? Why would they not? A man like Ralph Fonseca, who certainly was beleaguered, why would they not confront him with at least one or two of these allegations that
you're talking about the meeting at Rotary when we had
right.
I don't know, because people are frightened of victimization. I got victimized. I lost all my work from PUP. That's why you think I did the cafe. Why do you think I had no money was coming in? And
Such a
I don't think UDP liked me either. But I was very friendly with PUP. PUP, I grew up with PUP, and they were good to me, and that's why it was very hard for me to do what I did to form a group like ACB, because I had to go against a lot of people that I liked, were friends, and people that I knew, and people who had my back. I was the PUP's photographer. Do you know how hard it is to make that kind of decision? To turn your back on people that you know that had your back and so on. But I didn't like what I saw that was going on. It took me a while to stand up and speak out, but a lot of people won't do that. And I lost business. I lost all my business. And that's why I had to figure out what the hell am I going to do now to survive.
But in retrospect, was it a good move on your part? Would you do
You
it
know what? I
again?
can live with it because I'm proud of myself that I
Yeah,
stood up when a
but
lot of people didn't.
did you create better? Was what you guys did? I can remember you brought in Georgia spoke at 13 years at UDP. That wasn't at all.
No, I was
What?
very disappointed in the performance of the UDP afterwards. Yep, I was. I was
So
disappointed.
there's no real difference at all in the politics as practiced by the two parties with with the
PUP
enrichment.
seems to be PUP seems to be pretty good right now. I don't hear this
Which is the
Budna thing
question I
has
was
got
going to
me
ask.
concerned. The Budna thing got me concerned because it's not reconciled, and it looks like they don't want to reconcile it. They want to push it under the rug, and I think me and Joe, I know what you think about Budna, but me and Joe are more about the process, the constitutional
But
right. Forget who Budna is. But
what is the best case scenario there? What do you
I
expect?
would
What would
like to
you
know
you
who
just
if
want to know what happened?
I want to know what's going to happen afterwards. Who
No,
initiated this
no.
kidnapping?
What you do? You just want to? Do we bring Budna back and then send him back the right way? Do we bring him back and
I don't
decide?
think
Well,
we
we
can
know
do
what.
that. I don't think we
Huh?
can do that.
So
That
then,
milk is being spilled.
what is the what and the motive? Well,
Well,
what
we
was
need to know if our government had anything to do with it.
and they're saying they don't. Then what?
But then the police is saying that the policeman is saying that he was made to change his.
So are you gonna just listen to who you want?
We got
Listen
to
to
listen
now
to
then.
somebody. He saw what went on.
Again, he has no. He's not credible at this point. He can't count two different stories. Which one do we believe then? Just because
People
the
are
one that we
frightened.
want to believe.
People are
what,
frightened. People are frightened of
Mr.
big
Chairman, you know
organizations. They
why? You know
like
why
them.
I'm telling you we need to know the law. You see how we they talk about this. This is not necessary about whether man sent this man sent that one
Yeah,
sent.
yeah,
It should have gone to the DPP. Let the DPP decide on the investigations whether there is a case to answer to or not. Done. We don't want to
yeah.
do that. We don't want to follow the law. Why they say that Billy suffers from veneer democracy? You know what is veneer democracy? It's autocrats hiding behind democracy. You mentioned a very important thing just now, and I need to come back to it. Not having the courage, fear, intimidation. I used to say myself, you all public officers, why are you not standing up? Your loyalty is to the citizen, not to the politicians. My personal experience with many of them, and I understand why they are intimidated and why they are not prepared to stand up. Just imagine, gentlemen, especially where you have single mothers, single parents, whether the mother, the children are in school, you pay the mortgage for the house, you have a vehicle, you have all this life for you to live. Because you don't want a senior public officer. Though, is that really to be a Rosa Parks? Rosa
Where do
Parks,
we stand? Why do we stand with where do we stand with whistleblowers acts?
we are come to the Whistleblowers Act next because the people who blow the whistle, they don't want even to know that they blow the whistle.
Please
It's
continue your train of thought, Joe. Continue what you were
very
saying.
important. You know why? The more we intimidate, and they are being intimidated, they are. When you the sense, my brother, what they can do to you, if you look at the public service, no. And I'm not going, I'm going, let me speak in a generic sense about party politics. Generic. The public sector evidently is a burden on this society. It become a burden because the two parties with the political patronage bring them people in every time they win. To put people into the public service who do not should not be there. And we the taxpayers they pay. These public officers that are well trained, have years of experience, can be intimidated because of their responsibility, knowing what can be done to them. I have seen, and I'm repeating it, where even in the Public Service Commission, they were able to subvert it to the point of where they never had to have meetings at the Public Service Commission. The names go to the chairman of the commission, and he has the permission of the rest to approve what he wants. And who goes? Somebody high up to the Prime Minister, go to the Public Service Commission chairman, said, these are the people we want. And they appoint them, so they make them permanent. Then that person take them to the ministry where they want to go. Gentlemen, that is not the way you will run a democracy with a public service like that. And that is what we need to address the public sector.
You you think they're top heavy? Is the public service top heavy? And do these people do they earn their money?
It's not whether I know it's top heavy. The government know it's top heavy. The World Bank tell it's top heavy. The IDB tell it's top heavy. The union tell it's top heavy. But they don't want to not neither because they're for their members. Ask yourself, why is it we are paying almost 60 cents or more out of the dollar when you add up the pension, you add up the transfers and everything, out of every dollar for human resource? That's too high. That's too high. Right size the public sector, right size it. Who has the courage to do it?
But what do you do with the people who you have to shed? Because you certainly
I will tell you exactly what is to be done, because I'm saying we spend years to do public sector reform. And today the matter came up. It started with CARICOM for the CARICOM countries. CARICOM headed the reform for the whole CARICOM countries. So everything that I'm talking about now is things that we have agreed on long ago. They have been established. The public sector, evidently, is overburdened. It's too large for the country. And not only too large, but too many of it are not qualified to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So what you have to do, you have to address the public sector. You have to right size it. You have to bring back the meritocracy. You have to bring back the neutrality. You have to bring back the enforcement of internal controls. All these things need to be done. So to me, if you say, boy, is PUP doing better than UDP? I'd say yes. But again, my child makes 69. Your child makes 60. My child is better than you. The two of them fail. It's just that I come closer to pass. We, as a citizens of a country where they call about democracy and talk about democracy, we are wasting our time if the people are not sufficiently educated and sophisticated to carry on democracy. And that is why the people of Athens at the time thought that it was a stupid thing, because we don't have the kind of human beings to do it. And therefore, they're going to have a dictatorship.
Well, if of course,
which or
if
when
you have a benevolent,
will we get a leader?
Say that again. Go ahead. Where you
I was just gonna say what I like what Joe is telling me. He's educating me of things that I noticed, but it's more credible when somebody like himself tells me about it. But when will we get a leader that will do those things to correct the ship? Have we gotten a leader like that yet? We haven't. They go along because that public service thing is a reward for your support for your party, and also put people in those positions.
I really think that we had a leader like that in George Price, and that the same system that they're trying to establish, democracy, is what brought it down, because you had an opposition that was doing exactly what the opposition today do. Find any way, by any means, to bring down the government, make them look bad, even if you have to fabricate things, tell lies, outright lies, come up with scenarios that don't exist. And they were doing that to him, the amount of things that he went through, And I think we all see it on a regular basis where even people that we're trying to help will turn around and talk bad about you or say things about you that aren't true. So if you ask, and what Jesse and what Joe the talk about them philosophers of in Athens and them, where Socrates felt that the best system was a benevolent dictator. You need a king. You need somebody that makes the decisions, but based on the best interests of the people below him. And your question is, where do you find that? I don't know.
Well, we have a king in England, but he doesn't have that power anymore like
No,
he
but then
used
you
to
don't
have.
want, and you remember you have the No King Day in America where they say, the people are saying, we don't want a king. We don't want that, and we certainly don't
That's when
want
they were
one
a
like a
republic.
Donald Trump. So, but then if you have a person, you right, a leader, and you know who had the potential for that, Dean Barrow, but he really disappointed. Um,
I think we had two great men with potential. I think the two legal luminaries of this country had the potential to be two great leaders. I think Said Musa could have been a great leader. One, he was a visionary person. Two, he was compassionate. Three, he's very intelligent. I worked with him. My great regret, I am telling you, if the people of this country had voted back the PUP in 2008, this country would be way ahead today. I thought that the people who made up the PUP had a sense of guilt in them, that we knew we went wrong and we corrected it. And I repeated many times on this show. ECLA made it clear that in 2008, when that great recession came from the housing bust in America, he said that Belize weathered the storm the best. And he did it because of the People's United Party, gentlemen. I am not here batting for just PUP policy. I am batting for the principles and define the purpose of the movement. And I maintain that that is what I am willing to go to my grave with. The principles that define the purpose of the PUP is one of the noblest the world could have put forward. It was the gospel imperative. We were to be our brothers and sisters' keeper. That to me is what government must be about. Today, I had a discussion at the park with some people who I hear them raving and ranting and condemning politics, oh, it's no good and whatnot. And when I stopped and I spoke with them, they were right because, unfortunately for them, they saw politics as the politicians. And I tried to show them the difference and they begin to accept. Politics is one of the most noble calling to human beings. It is. The noblest of the callings is politics. Now, the politician, unfortunately, is discrediting the profession. So, what is happening to many of our young people today? One, they want to go to the public service in where they want to go. They want to hurry go to customs. Then you got some of them know we want to get now politics now, they want to run. You know where they want to run for? Because they figure they want to get rich quick. If that is the perception of our people today, my brother, including those with the bachelor's degree, including those with the master's and the PhD, there is no sense in excel with PhDs and masters in the sciences, engineering, if you have no sense of values for human beings. If we cannot come to accept that we must love one another as He loved us and to be our brothers and sisters' keeper, we will not make it. Socialism, in my judgment, is grounded in the gospel imperative. That is why Mamdani did so well against that dynasty of the Comos. He brought them down because the people grasped the importance of affordability. They grasped the importance and the principle of solidarity. We must be there for each other. Government cannot exist as a profit-making thing. That's why you have the private sector. Government is a welfare-oriented institution. Those who have must help those who don't have, and those who have less must come together with those who have more and help those who don't have. But give them the chance, give them the opportunity to have to.
it is said, it is said that amongst the fools, the wise man becomes the fool, and certainly amongst the corrupt, anyone with integrity get in there gonna be the bad person. He gonna be, and the problem that I think we have is that the people themselves are too willing for listen to the noise in the market and not look for themselves as to where they go on. They ain't going with the popular opinion. Everybody that go this way, we went this way. If somebody say Spooner get in there, he want to do good, but one person start to throw aspersions and whatnot, and directly people when they know nothing about town, don't know where they going, when just jump on board and then start to be grapevine for all the rumors that's circulating. So we the people, I think that the biggest cause of our own problems, we bring it upon ourselves.
You
Uh,
know, when all of that was going on and UDP won they won the city council elections, and then the national election was going to happen, and you could see the tide was turning and that the UDP were going to get in. I would have people come up to me and say, "Why Spooners that for we turn now?" And I would look at them and I wouldn't say anything to them, but in my mind I said, "Well, that's not what I was about, and you missed the point of why I was doing what I was doing in HCB." But that is the mentality that for we turn now.
let let me see, Joe, you might want to respond to this, where Sam Dredd is suggesting
yes, I would
that
like to.
said Musa was a so leader, and the Musa he sold almost all of Belize's assets, and then they have to buy them back. He listened to the wrong people.
And
What do you
I
say
think he's
about it?
correct. He is right. He is right. What I was saying though is that he had the potential, just like Barrow. He had the potential, but he made a terrible mistake. Remember, the PUP came to office. This guy is right. We came to office on what you call an expansionary driven public sector policy. That was the policy of the government at the time. One of the best policies, public sector driven expansion. The mistake he made, terrible mistake, he abandoned the collectivity of the cabinet, the collective responsibility, and he thought that one man who he came so close to come walk on water. That man couldn't walk on water. He was no Jesus. And that was his mistake he made. But potentially, he was a visionary person. He was fairly knowledgeable. He was competent. He was compassionate. But he allowed himself to be misled. I will say this. I knew Barrow before I knew Said. Me and Barrow were closer, very close. PUPUDP, very, very close. More than I knew Said. I met Said afterwards through Said because Asal Shuwan and me were classmates. The two of them went to study together. I said about potential. So what he said just now, I cannot dispute. It's a fact. We were talking about the two, with two legal luminaries, because they were damn brilliant lawyers, no doubt, the two of them. And so the potential was there in them. I knew both of them, but they didn't carry it out. So I would say that he is right.
Well, listen. At the end of the day, I think that we we need our government. We need the politicians, and you saying is a noble calling. But the question that Jeremy asked is relevant. Where do we find a good leader? Where do you find a group of people that's going to be more concerned with letting the country move ahead than to allow themselves to get rich? And how do we find an electorate that's going to demand it of them and support them in doing it?
Do you know something? I don't know if you guys feel it, but um, when sometimes they play speeches made by George Price, it takes me back to a time where I felt like, yeah, he was the father of the nation. I felt secure. I felt things were good. I think things were happening. I don't get that feeling nowadays when we have our leaders speak. I don't know. Maybe it's just,
Let
I
me
don't know
see.
what
Let
you.
me see what Jerome is saying, because I really value his input. G. Mike, I disagree with you on the issue on political patronage in the civil service. It started with George Price. There was a 2014 interview that El Ramos conducted with the late Cornelius Patcacho, in which he discussed this issue. Also, check out the 2013 Amanda editorial, The Integrative Breakdown. All right, and let me say that, and I have no problem with the disagreement, but I think that George Price had when Joe used the word compassionate, he had compassion for people, and he realized, and he didn't. I don't think he took the people's money with patronage. And a lot of times they own money. I'm sure George Price many times his salary went towards trying to help other people, and I don't think it's certainly the kind of patronage that we see today. I think that he was genuine in his efforts to make Belize move forward and be a good country. and I don't know that he did. I'm not saying, I'm not going to say and go out on a limb and say he was totally okay and that he did everything right. But I think as far as motives and intentions, I admired him for it, and
I,
I looked at it.
so
I can
chairman,
attest to one of his he victimized my father, and I know about that, but that did not destroy the relationship I had with Mr. Price via
Well,
his nephews. I used to be very good friends with his nephews, and we would travel in his vehicle to their farm and so on. But he victimized my father, and my father never got any
but
government work.
we'd have to hear the full story of that, because there might very well be something that you're not telling us, no?
Well, in a cabinet meeting, he mentioned that there is this Englishman, Frank J. Spooner, that's supposed to be working for the government, but he's here doing private work, etc., etc. And my father
Okay.
got wind of it and demanded an apology from George Price. And he got Mr. Andrew Burns to sign an affidavit to say that my father bought all his supplies, his drafting paper, and so on, that he did, that he bought from Angeles Press at the time. What my father was doing on the side for Rotary was that he did the Stella Maris School, he did St. Mary's Church, and he did some other projects on his own time at his own expense. But George Price somebody probably whispered in his ear. He wasn't known to like British people, so my father is an Englishman. But my father never held any grudge on him, but he never got any government work. And if you look at architects today, um, the real way how my father belonged to RIBA, which is the Royal Institute of British Architect, and there's a ethnic code that you only charge a percentage of the project. So I think they make 5%. If a project is $1 million, they make 5% of that. Now my father had to deal with private sector. Where is all the money in government projects? 60 million, 30 million, 20 million. My father was not allowed to bid for those projects and so on, and that was a message down from Mr. George Price. So that's from my father, and that's how I know about that story. But my father never got any government work.
I will
Okay.
speak. I think I can speak on that issue. I would say that there was a streak at times of victimization in him. I had sensed it. And because of your father background, it could have been that would have caused him to think that way. But generally, when it comes to the public sector on a whole, he was not into the political patronage. The gentleman mentioned Pat Carcho. There was also Philo Fonseca. There was also Junior Young, my brother-in-law. There was also Danny Gill. There was Marshall. They were all Mr. Kane. Mr. Kane evidently was not known to be no PUP, more known to be UDP with Horace Young and them. So Danny Gill was not known to be no PUP, but they were there with Mr. Price. Now that he has gone, that is Mr. Price and Mr. Kane. I can maybe say it now because the truth about it, he told me himself, Mr. Kane. He said, Joe, you know where I come from. You know who my support was with. He said, but the truth about it, I have a lot of respect for Mr. Price. Unlike Esquivel. He said that to me personally. Mr. Price respected them. He respected Danny Gill. He expected Marshall. He respected Philo. He called me one time because I was carrying out an investigation to move against some merchant with the then director of public prosecution. And a certain minister went to him to plead on behalf of this merchant, big merchant, which I believe he must go and pick up things from, to try to get him to tell me to back off. You know, Mr. Price, he called me. He said, Hustle, let me tell you something. You go through and do exactly what you're doing and not let any one of them stop you. You go through and you go through with your prosecution. And we did. So I can talk for him. He had his streak. It's true. He did. When you say that,
But is that not just human? No, a human trait, man. You expect some things like that,
so
and
what I end on end this with him since he was mentioned. Gentlemen, every one of us have a fault. But at
But
the end,
Joe,
hold on, I just finish it, please, Mr. Chairman. At the end of the day, we will be judged by whether we virtues outweigh those faults. In my estimation, Mr. Price virtues outweigh his faults. So you did point out a fault that I think is true about it, but his virtues outweigh them.
what interesting in what you said, though, you call a bunch of names that were Danny Gill and Pat Carter. These were men who worked with Mr. Price, but one of the knocks against Mr. Price was that he was racist. Do you believe he was racist? Because when you look at Lindy Rogers, Albert Cattouse, these were all black men, and not even almost black. They were black men. So I don't. I think it's almost a disservice of people to label him as that when in
That,
fact he was in the trenches with all these guys. No.
yeah, that wasn't true. He was not like that. He wasn't. He wasn't. That is certainly not true of him. As a matter of fact, the center, the epicenter for the resistance to colonialism was in Belize City. And the majority of the people at that time, 71% of the population was Creole. And the majority of the Creole were in Belize City. And the people who backed the People's United Party was the union, the General Workers Union. And the majority of them were Creole. So it was the Creole had resonated as much as the Mestizos and the Indians. They all resonated, and Mr. Price worked good with all of them. So when it comes to that, no, I can defend him. I was there many years with him.
Yeah, I
We will
think.
go back to Mr. Strand had something there again.
Yeah. It was given a reference to a book.
What
I think that
Can somebody
we,
tell me who Cacho was? I'm kind of ignorant on that. I don't recall that name, Cacho. What was he and what did he do? Was he very instrumental in Belizean politics?
not in the politics, but he was a brilliant public officer. I knew him well, and
Okay.
I worked with him for a while. What do you mean? I
What
was
part of the service did he work for? What public service?
also then he one among the first who went to do economics, and he excelled. He came back. We never had many coming from university. Pat was one of them. Brilliant guy. Pat Culture was the first person to write upon what we must do with the sugar industry. His paper was an excellent paper. One, he started out to show you where he began from the harvesting, from the fields, the cane fields, to the harvesting, to the transportation and the milling. And he did a paper that if we had followed that paper, that's it, that sugar industry would have been way farther ahead.
Why didn't we follow it? No? Why didn't we follow it?
opposition.
For some reason, I felt at the time, you remember it was under the PUP, cane cutters became farmers.
What year are you talking about? When was this?
This was I entered the public service in '61, and Pat was there for
Oh,
all of
61. Wow. Okay.
That's when I went in. So I
But
knew Pat very well. He was a brilliant fellow. Very, very.
this is my problem, though, with the way our political system is run today. That opposition, they will oppose anything that the government is trying to do, even if it's for the good. And that's why I was talking about today about Philip Golson, who was a consummate opposition to everything that Mr. Price tried to do, even with coming up with a whole lot of rumors and false accusations. Mr. Price would stop and give anybody a ride in a vehicle. I think anybody will tell you that, regardless of if they're Belizean, he will stop and give you a ride. He will be walking on the street and he's the garbage on the street. He will stop and pick up the garbage and lead by example, show that you should not be littering in and make your country dirty. I think they're just one exceptional man, and that we don't give him enough credit.
He was the right man for the times, most definitely.
Yeah, but and a lot of the things that we seem to remember, that a lot of the rumors that were being spread as opposed to the truth about Mr. Price, a man that, yes, a man for the times indeed. And if had he not faced the kind of vicious opposition that he faced, I think Belize would have been further along at this point. But even given that, I am one who don't believe that we're doing that badly. I really believe that as a country and in the midst of shark-infested waters, we've been able to keep our head afloat, and we're moving along. I was seeing a number today, Joe, and maybe you could tell me about this. Unemployment at 1.9. That's an incredible number. And is
Yeah,
that
I saw
true?
that too. I
Do,
saw
do,
that too.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, uh,
1.9 is very, very low because you have to have a percentage of unemployment, every country, because you
yeah.
have a slack that when the economy to grow, you have workers for work. So you can't get zero. If you got zero, then it don't make sense because you can't grow. So you have to have a percentage. Again, by rule of thumb, some would say 2%. So if we have an unemployment rate of 1.9%, now let me now begin to show you where you can statisticate and take it that 1.9 is a good sign for us in terms of the economy. Not necessarily true. We go at 1%. We have to ask ourselves, what kind of income are they making? Is the income a livable wage? So you cannot take growth and low unemployment to mean prosperity. You have to look at what income those who are employed are making.
I,
If you work 8 hours, you will consider it employed. So no,
there are such factors indeed, but let's be real because a lot of the employment is with call centers, and these people are making a decent salary. I'm concerned though about that because I don't think that is going to last too long. I think AI is going to definitely take over the industry, and what's going to happen then? I think we need to encourage our young people to learn a skill, find something to do that they could lean upon once this cash cow is out of the way, because I don't think it's going to last forever or for too long anyway.
well, Mr.
Uh,
Chairman, you brought up a very important point. There is a list has been prepared by the world, experts, and they're giving you the professions and the jobs that will become redundant because of AI. Call center is one of them.
oh, yeah.
That is one listed because what they are doing now, the robots will be able to do the AI.
Easy and better, more efficiently.
So what we will have, you will have a decline in those areas, but you will have a surge within the leisure industry, and that's what happened with all
A
technology.
a search in what industry?
The the projection is that people will be need to work less, but then we can get more because they will be taking over much of the jobs them that we are now doing, and they will be able to do. So
Uh-huh.
what will happen is that we'll get a good income, but we'll have more time. So when you got more time, then the leisure industry, like tourism, begin to make more money. So it is sure with all the technological disruption over the 100, 200 years, when you move from the horse-drawn to the motormobile, there always something will come in to take over. So we're at the point now where we're going to AI.
You know,
You made that's a valid point.
I I could I could go along with that, but there's a factor that you don't want to miss, and that's greed. Because those who are making more will want more. Will they be willing to share some of that um, with those who aren't doing anything? You see what I'm saying? Because you're going to say we're going to do less, and there are people who will obviously be getting paid for doing nothing. But there will always be that group of people who thinks, those Republicans, if you will, Jeremy, who will think that you give people money for nothing, and that they need to do more, and they need to earn their keep, if you will. I, and so that might be where the problem will come in.
Well, Mr. AI says that Belize is doing well. The economy is on an upward trend. And he says the key economic indicators is that our GDP in the second quarter of 2025 was $1.4 billion. Inflation rate 0.9%. That was in October 2025. Unemployment rate that you just quoted, 2.1%, April 2025. And in September 2025, poverty incidence down to 19.1%.
So we're not doing badly.
That's
However,
apparently what AI is saying. Yeah.
Now,
that's
are
right
we?
there. I would like to interject.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
And the macroeconomic data, we are doing well. But when you go below the macroeconomic data, that is when you have to ask yourself, are we doing as well as we should be doing? And that was the point brought out by this professor from that university who did the study on Belize about a few months ago.
Oh,
He's
yes,
very
yes, the Englishman, yeah.
to me, you have to look at that. You can't just take it macroeconomic levels. Of course, we're looking good. The issue that how are we distributing it? A
But
point.
but but you know, if that perfection we seek for, I think we'll fall short. And let's see what Sam's ready to say. Mr. Kobe, what is the unemployment rate presently? What is the deficit also presently? What percentage of the population consists as working poor? He who feels it knows it. He's saying, I think that basically we're going to cover that just now.
Yeah, 2.1% is the unemployment rate,
Right, right.
and the poverty incidence is down to 19.1%. So
And
that could
let's
answer.
be real. Let's be real. Because we want to be perfectly honest with ourselves. Those of us who are like my age and your age, Jeremy, who knew when Belize was really struggling, when we very few of us had much of anything. You always had that class of people, that the royal creole, if you will, the elite. But for the most part, many people in Belize were struggling hand to mouth, really trying to make something. And during that time, families were having more children. It was not unusual for a man to have 11, 12 picnic and with a wife, and then go out and get a few more with somebody else also. So but and all of us were trying to make it, and very little. Nowadays, I think we're doing much better as far as the poverty level, and I could understand that kind of figure where the quote. We're not as bad, doing as badly as we're doing. We certainly have a lot that we could deal with. Um, I don't think Budna is one of them. But go ahead.
I don't think that we should allow complacency to take the better part of us. But on the other hand, to say that we are doing well, there's nothing wrong in saying we are doing well. Because the macroeconomic figures will tell you we are doing well. The question we have to ask ourselves, can we do better? Did we do as good as we could have? You asked me a question, why, and I'm going to come back to it. I said it a while ago. I'm just coming back. Why do you think compared the PUP compare with what the UDP did? And I said, why the PUP did better than the UDP? But to me, that is not what we should be looking at. We should be able to have the benchmark and say, this is what we would expect a government to do with the resources we make available to it and with the job description and the job profile we give them. This is what we expect. No, it is that you will measure the performance. Not measure the performance of the PUP against the UDP. That's not how you measure government performance. You have to measure government performance. One, you have input. You will get output from the input. Then out of that output, you have to look at results. And it is the results that you will measure. Simply put, if the chronic non-communicable disease, which is the most damaging disease to a country, and you change your health system towards a culture of prevention, and you measure it every year, you see the chronic non-communicable diseases, they go down. The cardiovascular disease, they go down. The diabetes, they go down. The kidney problems, they go down. That is how you're going to measure results. I think what is happening to us, and it's coming right back, if you don't have sophisticated voters, as with those philosophers were talking about, those political philosophers, democracy, you will not be able to choose the people who can perform best for you. If it was your own business, Mr. Spooner and Chairman, your own business, you need a CEO. You have your brother. You love your brother. He need one job. You and get your CEO job when you don't qualify, you would not do it.
Oh, they're doing it. That's what they're doing now. Yes.
No. If it is your business, your money for your business, you put up.
Yeah.
You want to put somebody to manage your business just because you like him, or because he's competent and capable of managing your business. You will do it because he's competent and capable. I am saying what is happening in the public sector. we tend to bypass the meritocracy which we once held so dear. We tend to bypass the neutrality. We tend to bypass the internal controls. And these are the things we supposed to begin to look at to see whether, in fact, we are performing the way we should be performing.
But aren't there structures in place, Joe, to hold people to the right way of doing things in that regard? Aren't there checks and balances? Aren't there guardrails?
They are, but look at it. It is in the supreme law of the land, the Constitution, the rule of law. But here we are saying, why not study Buddha? Buddha I'm a criminal. Don't worry, handle anyway.
No, see, I come back to that. That I enunciate it.
You know why I come back to it? You know why I come back to it? That is exactly what we are doing. We are ignoring the rule of law.
No.
The point that we are saying, I'm not interested, but not our criminal. But not is this and that and that.
Forget his reputation. Yes.
My point I'm saying to you that I made the point to you about the public sector. There are rules, there are laws. You got public service regulations, you got internal controls, you got financial orders, you got store orders, you got the transparency and accountability. You have all of them. If you look at the public sector regulation, you'll see my picture. I was the last one to revise and reform the public sector regulation. So we have them.
My point to you is that none of those we are worried about, but we're worried about Budna. Budna is an important thing, and if we hold him as the benchmark, we're going to do all right.
I'm not worried about Budna. I am not worrying about Budna. I am concerned about the rule of law, not Budna.
Yeah, but on a whole, I mean, there are many other areas we need to correct, though. I think we're a waste with time with that.
No, that's why you know how we use Budna. Sorry, I can call it. Because of the quality, you know this.
Yeah, I'm just saying because that's all we talk about these days.
I don't want to talk about calling it. Sorry, I forgot to take back.
Center with life. No, I hear St. Jules. Now make a move on because St. Jules bringing up a whole story, Rupert Miles, where this man began to build a house on top of my and mom, and there was a situation where it bring it back up now as if that, and then the first thing when they asked the guy, so is it the worst thing happened to you? Well, no, because look what they do with Budna. And I'm saying, boy, you know exactly how to forget Jules will give you your time and make your story puff. That's all you need to do. Make reference to Budna and make him know that you're there in the side with that. So but I think I'm a ridiculous thing for rehash this. But and I think this case still is before the court, isn't it?
No, you know, reach there. Is it? Yeah,
but I was saying where this man actually built a house.
Sorry. No, I didn't. I thought you were all right, go ahead. Sorry.
He's the one that they tied up. They tied him up.
Yeah.
The Mayan people tied him up.
And basically that the way everybody looked at and felt it was degrading because I'm a black man and they tie up like that, no? But they restrained him. And you could restrain a man. I didn't see it. I may say that much ado about nothing. And maybe I know see the value in these lessons on the whole up as what we need to learn to move forward. I don't see that as important as the real things that we have to look upon, like corruption, nepotism, graft. These are the things we need to pay attention to, man. And they're not part and parcel of the whole thing.
Well, you use the word just of corruption. Now, corruption is extremely broad. Look at the simple statement using by the United Nations. One who uses his public office for private gain.
Right.
No, that's very wide. Very wide. So it means that corruption could be at the janitorial level within government. The janitor can be guilty of corruption. And then the minister can be guilty of corruption. So to me, the issue of corruption should always be very, I would say, prominent in our thoughts as to our governance. Because one of the most debilitating, and that is again in the United Nations report against corruption. Corruption is one of the most debilitating things happening to countries today. The amount of children, with mothers, fathers who have been deprived of equal opportunity in our democratic society simply because the money that was available to give them the equal opportunity was instead shared between the political directorate and the private sector. So corruption, no doubt, is very debilitating. It's harmful, it's obnoxious, it's inhumane. So I agree with you, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to ask a
Fortunately,
question.
and I want to say this before the show goes on because maybe we're almost finished. You see what we are doing here tonight with three of us, and what we have done nights before with four of us and sometimes five. Tell me now which media house in Belize you can listen to such discussions. I know are they at least selfish on the route for we. Which media house we could hear things like these today? Which one of them? Or with
Well,
the democracy?
not in such a frank, un, un, unconnected way, if you will, because we don't got no bills to pay. We don't got no we don't no advertisers to please. So I think that makes a difference, no?
I don't agree with you, Mr. Chairman. No, you want think at the flat tire. But you made the difference. Spooner made a difference. Mr. Morrison made a difference. All those guests that came on the show made a difference. And it's not about the advertisement where the owner of this studio they get. The issue to me is that you could find these same people within our society. And you could have these same shows here in the media houses. If you talk about educating the people, that is what a media house can do rather than focusing on the salacious type information.
The sensationalism, yeah, that they go for that, but that's what the people demand, Joe.
Three of us here right now, the three of us are from within the city. Yes, we had some very good guests, many, and you have brought a lot of good guests. And the owner, Mr. Young, we have brought some very good guests on this show. Now, if you tell me no, and I'm saying this not because I happen to be on the show, but which show in Belize right now have been able to have a person that could bring these kind of discussions right here in Belize? So I did compare right now.
Yeah, moving on. I see the
I had
whole
wanted to ask
information.
Joe a quick question,
Go ahead.
G Mike, if I can
Go
ask
ahead.
him.
Go ahead.
I was wondering that when Belize had self government under the British were overseeing it, were the rules and regulations for politicians followed more then as opposed to after independence? All the things we discussed tonight that goes on.
It
Did I make
was,
myself clear?
yes, and it's a fact that it did. Now, it is not so much just because of the British, but I must say the British contributed to it with all the faults and the slavery, which is unforgivable. The point is that when it comes to the public sector, and I said that before, the same guy, Karim, who wrote that book, he did take a chapter and give credit to the British. He said one of the best things the British left to the world with all the inhumanitarian behavior was the public sector. So that public sector then, the people who came into the public sector in the period of self-government and prior to self-government, they were Belizeans, not with no bachelors and masters, but they were Belizeans with a sense of values, Belizeans with dignity, with respect for elders, respect for the rule of law. And they were Belizeans, Creole and Mestizo. The people at that generation, I would say my mother's generation, private school graduates, they had a sense of value. They were honest people. They were upright. And I know say that this might be been influenced by this kind of discipline the British brought. For example, in school, they had these school wardens go from home to look see if any children are not at school who are at the age of 14. They go through with the public health inspectors. They visit all the vats in the city. I know it's a smaller population to make sure that the vats are not contaminated. And then they will put a fish in there. They go and they make sure the drains are kept clean. They make sure the grass is cut. You cannot throw banana skin on the street. You cannot put on the side of the street and go pee pee. You could not do those things, my brother. You go to the shop. As you enter the shop as a young boy, good morning, Mr. Brown. If you don't tell him good morning, he want to scold you and he'll tell your mom last you. So we bid each other at the time of the day. One neighbor run out of salt. Boy, go over to Miss Lady and ask her, give me some salt, the girl. We were our brothers and sisters' keeper, Mr. Spuders. It was a generation that really was good neighborhood society. And that is why I would say, yes, we did have. But
I yeah, you make a good point to Joe, because the British, if there's one thing we're good at discipline. They kept everybody in line, and again we go back to democracy um, and uh, um, the dictator now, in that maybe you need that for some people. It would be wonderful if people would do things just because of the right thing to do. Many times they do it because they have to do it or face the penalty for not doing it. The British had lots of penalties, and they kept people in line. But I don't know why we can't do it for ourselves if we could do it for them. There are many people who say, and I still talk to people nowadays and say, why am I better than the British? Certainly, we had more discipline. We did what we needed to do. But again, there were penalties for it. No, like Joe said, if you're going to the shop and not tell the person morning or good afternoon, he will tell your mom, and your mom will discipline you. Now, I was seeing a story a couple of last week, and we missed it, where a mother was raising money for pay the bill for his son because he went out of jail for Christmas. But this boy has been accused of some very serious crimes. But then again, on bail, and the mother got it to pay a little piece at a time to try to get his son out. And everybody was saying, well, that's the love of a mother. And I understand, but what about that tough love that's necessary for people to do the right thing?
What was his crime? Do you know?
There were a bunch of robbery and all kind of thing.
Okay. He had
Yeah,
a record, yeah.
yeah. He was known by the police, as they say, So,
Tough
and I
love, like you
wonder
say, you know.
if we don't, because I remember a story where the police began the lady house because they asked her for his son, no, and the lady said, my son right in the sleep. And the policeman said, you sure? You don't want to check? He said, no, me not have to check. He in there. And policeman was saying, miss, because somebody with VI identification panel and look just like him in the morgue, you need to go in and check. The lady tumble along a faint right away. And a true story. But there are people who are tolerating and appalling, making excuses for people who are doing the wrong thing because of their connection. And it comes right back to the whole nepotism and corruption thing, and people giving advantage to those who they know or who they like, no, as opposed to who are qualified. A tough situation. How are we going to get out of that?
I don't know. It sounds like, when one of those young men are killed and they interview the mother, and the mother goes, I know he give a little bit of trouble, but I'm a nice little boy and he made change his ways, and a mother will always protect her kid, I guess, no matter
I
what.
know it bad, I know it
So,
bad, but
how do you solve that? Huh?
I said that is line. I know it bad, but that for me still, no. So um, I at some point
Yeah.
you have to say, and I've seen mothers get on TV, and say, boy, I try to talk to the little boy, but he never want to listen. So what happened, no? When do we get to the point of that blunt honesty, that straightforward, honest remarks about what is happening? And I don't know if we're going to be able to fix this unless we get to that point.
well, I think that we should go back to that point because we were there. And I mentioned it earlier. If you look at any society, this the community and the society, the sum of the families, how good the families are will determine how good the society is. So I go back to them same period there where there was poverty in this country widespread. But there was also a high standards of moral values. We had to go to Sunday school, we had to go to church. Some of the things I mentioned just now. Then the vicious cycle came, and then we get more education, we get more bachelor's degrees, we get more masters, we get PhDs. But the value system was deteriorating.
Mm.
We was not then any longer into what is in it for us, it was what is in it for I. So if we have to get back, gentlemen, today I met the fellow with the vehicle from the Ministry of Human Development. And the lady that was with them, I was a senior person in the public service. So I stopped asking and say, see this department here. Do you know the size of the budget? He said, I don't know the exact, but I'll tell you what, we don't get much. Now here you have a department of human development, human and child support, children's development. Don't you think that ministry should have been one of the ministries with a larger budget to address family issues, meaning begin to deal with the community at the family level? So I don't understand when we may come up with that 13 proposal again with the SOE fee, expand the regulations, the constitution to allow you to go after the gangs. Well, in fact, let me tell you plain, it is not an issue that comes out of nature. It is an issue that has to address as a social problem. You've got to address the social environment. So to get back to it, Mr. Chairman, we were there.
One more thing. I see them they bring up to the Prime Minister things that he was saying during the last administration, and in particular as it pertains to the cost of fuel, and that how now he in a driver's seat and nothing happened. And I wonder if we get to the point where we elect our government for 5 years and we have them govern, hold them to task. But if our opposition then the outside they set things like that and they make promises, then we hold them to that too. And you say you're lowered, you said it could be lowered. How come you know the lowered now that you have the opportunity? Okay, are we ever gonna get to that point where we and just because that a PUP, yeah, right, because now the PUP the in, or if the UDP know that UDP the in, we have to just live with it. How are we gonna change this, brother? Well, how we turn it around?
I think sometimes when they put out their manifesto, it's not for that. They present it like it's for that 5-year term that they do, but I think it goes on to the other terms if they get in again. That's what I think about that. They never fulfill the complete manifesto.
Well, the PUP is in the second term, you know.
Yeah, they're going into the second term now. That's usually when all the corruption
into
starts
the second term, not going in. They're in.
They're in, yes. Yeah, they're in now. This is when all the things start coming to the surface now. You will start seeing little things. If Jules is going to be on the attack, he will start bringing out a lot more stuff now because it's usually in the second term that these things start coming out.
Well, let me give you the facts of that. When in opposition that was said, it is because it's something that could have been done. At the pump, I think it's a bit more than 50%, I don't remember the exact figure, 50% of that pump price is from taxes. Mm-hmm. It's not from the landed cost of fuel.
Correct.
So therefore, what we had in mind, and we could have done it, we'll have to be able then to close the gap with the other taxes so that we could bring more revenue and then reduce the taxes on the fuel. There are 3 main taxes that we collect from still out of the 40 revenue centers in this country. There's only 3 revenue centers that bring over 90% of the revenue for this country. The GST, custom duties, and what we call business tax. The one that is making the highest turnover, the highest, is the GST. Over 800 million. Is 53% of the total revenue.
And that's not everybody handing in the right amount when they do their taxes too.
Every year, what we are seeing for the last 5 years, it has the highest incremental increase going up. You know the one with the lowest, the customs duties, the lowest. So if we had addressed the taxes, we could have been lower the tax on the fuel. And that's the issue right there.
Gentlemen, we're out of time. Thanks again for your participation. Thanks to those who listened. And tuned in. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. There's something I want to bring up. We want to do on trip to Cotton Tree where I wanted to teach our children to give as well as they receive. So we got some gifts coming in, but they usually send us some gifts, but we wanted to get our kids pile up in a van and go up there and give some gifts to some of these children that are even less fortunate than us. I think we try to only get a community center, do only Santa for them, and only party, and in fact have the kids intermingle. I think many times they forge lifelong relationships, and again, our lesson in giving as well as receiving. So if anybody out there want giving Ali hand with this, we appreciate it.
And maybe a little suggestion that maybe comes.
No, we lose you. Say it again.
I'm breaking up.
You're breaking up. Say it no.
I was going to say that maybe me, you, and Joe can probably meet before Christmas comes along for a little lunch somewhere. That would be nice.
But you really want to sit down with Joe and have lunch?
Just think about it. Think about it, yeah.
Now, when are Christmas? Christmas is gone next week, right?
I think
No.
Next week, the Christmas, right, Jim?
You get like Clinton, you look for triangulate.
They hold on. Today are what? Today they
Christmas Day is 2 Thursdays from now. 2 weeks exactly.
2 weeks. So you're gonna next week before then. We got time. All right, we could do that. But yeah, folks, please. Thank you very much again. We'll see you next week, same time, guys. Thanks, CY. We're done
Good
here.
night. Good night, everybody. Have a good evening.
Here we go.
Blessed is the man who walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the ways of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Glorify his